You're remarkably candid about family matters. Isn't there a taboo in Iran? There's a taboo in most places, but especially in cultures like Iran against airing dirty laundry in public.
Yes, there has been a taboo in Iran, and ironically, I think because of the revolution and because of their focus on individual life and sort of trying to take it out of its context, people have become more and more aware of the importance of individual life. But still, talking about yourself candidly is considered partly trivial and partly taboo.
So is this as daring as teaching Lolita in Tehran during the heyday of the Islamic Revolution?
I don't know if it is daring at all. I don't think that I'm a very daring person. I think that people do what they have to do, especially writers.
But you also live here, and I don't know whether living in another place is a liberating, has a liberating effect.
Well, for a writer, they should always live in another place because you should always look at the world through the other's eyes. And writing a memoir is interesting because you look at yourself through the alternative eyes of imagination and all the other people that you're talking about. So it is liberating, yes.
Also,
yes.
Your parents are dead.
Yes, and
could you have written this when they were alive?
I was not even thinking about writing it. When I started writing this, at some point I realized maybe all my life I have been writing this story. And another thing that hit me was that writing this book seemed like to follow up with something that was unfinished. I wanted to carry on the conversation.
Well, you said that all your life you've been writing the story, even literally, because you went back to many of your diaries.
Oh, yeah.
Here. When did you start keeping diaries?
Well, the one that I remember specifically, and I have those pages with me actually, was around the age of 12.
When had you reread them over the years?
Well, when I was leaving Iran in 1997 and I was collecting my papers and diaries, I started reading them to see what I can take with me to US, and I reread it, and it is heartbreaking when you look at that little girl.
Well, I remember I discovered a diary that I kept for a brief time in my 20s, and when I reread it, I was both surprised, pleasantly surprised, and horrified.
Yes. I was more horrified by my later diaries when I was in my teens and early 20s because I become gauche and I write these sentences which to me are poetic, but they are just miserably horrible. And
But that's part of learning how to write, isn't it?
Yes, and you become very self-indulgent. No distance, in fact.
But did you also find that you'd always been a bit of a rebel?
I think, my mother especially kept telling me how obstinate I was. And I think that I have now accepted that that is how I am. There's something in me that doesn't let me sit still.
Well, your mother didn't respect your privacy. She actually would read your diary.
She would read my diaries. I was a grown-up woman with 2 children, and she would listen on the phone on the extension, and she would, in fact, intrude. She would come in and say things. Because
Why? Why do you think that was? Did she feel you were always an infant?
I think that for her, I never grew up. For her, past was always frozen. I feel so sorry for her now because life, with all its dynamism and change, could not enter her life.